Hello and a warm welcome to you, my dear friends. If you remember in the last lecture, I began with the topic historiography, Indian tradition. गुरु ब्रह्मा दोनों खड़े क्या के लागू पाए बलिहारी गुरु आप पे जो गोविंद दियो बताए. So now why this message? I'm thankful to my friends, to my colleagues, to my ex-students and you my dear students for wishing me on Guru Purnima Day. Why did I discuss this? Because it's the part of Indian tradition where we wish our teachers and in return the Guru, the teacher, thanks the children. So once again I thank you before I begin with this topic. Now let me do a recap, my dear students, as to what did we discuss in the previous lesson. We discussed about the historiography, specifically about the Europe, the development that took place in the West. Then we began with chapter number 2, historiography, Indian tradition. We did discuss about the three aspects that I discussed. We are going to discuss in detail about the ancient period. We discussed about the medieval period, and today what I'm going to discuss, my friend, I'm going to talk about the modern period. In ancient period, I discussed that 1920, the year when the excavation work was carried on at Harappa, which is presently the part of Pakistan. Some seals were been discovered. It was under the guidance of Sir John Marshall, and this excavation provided us with a lot of information that our Indian culture, our Indian tradition, our civilization is one of the oldest civilization in the world. We also discussed about the different kind of Bakhar. We talked about how the Marathi Bakhar played a very important role in history. We talked about Bhausahebanchi Bakhar. We talked about Holkaranchi Kaifiyat. All that we discussed in great detail and in great depth, if you remember, my dear students, in the last period. Now what are we going to begin today, my friend? That is, we are going to talk about specifically about the 20th century. And when I talk about the 20th century, we are going to discuss about what we are going to talk about historiography in the modern period. What are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about historiography in the modern period. Now, when I say historiography in the modern period, let us understand, my friend, as to how do we study about this modern period. That is what we need to understand. Now, when I say historiography of the modern period, we are going to exclusively talk about in this unit about those British writers, or rather about those British historians who contributed to the Indian history. Now when I say those British writers or historians who contributed to the Indian history, we are going to talk exclusively about the writers who wrote about India, but they wrote it from their own perspective, from their own viewpoint. So we are going to talk about historiography in the modern period. We are going to talk about those historians who wrote about Indian history. These Europeans, or rather the Britishers who came to India, they wrote in context, from their perspective, from their viewpoint. One such name that we need to remember is Sir Alexander Cunningham. C-U-N-N-I-N-G, Cunningham. Now if you look in a textbook, my friend, it is given as Cunningham, but in Google search, if you go, it's given as Cunningham. So what we do is, we don't use this E here, but we write it as Sir Alexander Cunningham. Now sir, who was Sir Alexander Cunningham? Remember, my friend, he was the first general of the Archaeological Survey of India. So now what is Archaeological Survey of India? You need to understand, my dear students. Archaeological Survey is a department of the government which rather protects, takes care of all the monuments, or rather the ancient monuments. It includes forts, it includes buildings, it includes sites which needs to be protected under, in quotes, by the government of India. So when you visit these places, for example, you go to Gateway of India, or rather you go to Taj Mahal, or you go to Victoria Terminus, that is now called the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, you'll find that there is a board that is being displayed, that this building is protected and under the care of ASI. Now what is that ASI? It is Archaeological Survey of India. Now you need to understand, it was this man, Sir Alexander Cunningham, who was the first person to become the Director General of the Archaeological Survey of India. Now, sir, what did he explore? See, every historian, every archaeologist, every narrator who narrates the story, they have their own viewpoint, they have their own perspective. Now, this man, that is Sir Alexander Cunningham, he explored more of the Buddhist sites. Now, where did he get most of these Buddhist sites? These sites were discovered at the time where Sir John Marshall. Now, you need to understand, my friend, when Sir John Marshall was the director, later on, he became what called as one of the most active historian of his time. Now, as I said, that there were many Indian students who were doing their studies under the guidance of Sir John Marshall. Two important names which is not there in your textbook. It included Dr. Rakhaldas Banerjee and Dr. Dayaram Sahani. These were the two Indian historians who were doing their research under the guidance of Sir John Marshall. So these British historians who played an important role and who wrote about the Indian history, whereby another name that you need to remember is that of Sir James Mill. James Mill also played an important role where he published what called as 3 volumes. What did he publish? He published 3 volumes of book titled The History of British India. Now, when you look at the title itself, you will understand the history of British India. So the title itself will give you a clear picture that what did they write about? They wrote about the Indian history from their perspective. So what did they write about? They wrote about their rule in India as to how it was beneficial for the people of India. Are you getting it, my friend? So you need to understand their perspective, what role they played, how was it useful in their context. So that is all we are going to discuss with what called as historiography in the modern period. Now, as I said that Sir Alexander Cunningham, James Mill, who wrote the 3 volumes, they wrote it with an objective. What was the objective? The objective was to bring about a development in country. Was their objective to write the true history of India? No. As I said that, they were very much influenced by their own country. They wanted to bring it to the notice to the rest of the world that their writings gave it a clear idea as to why did they come to India to establish their rule. British officers, they wrote about Indian history. They did not include the views and the opinions of the Indians. What rather than they included, sir? They wrote it from their perspective. They wanted to show to the world that how the Britishers are helping, rather, how the Britishers are managing the control on our country. That is what the writers wrote. One such name that you need to remember, my dear students, is that of Grant Duff. Now, his complete name was James Grant Duff. He was one of the British writer, a British historian rather, who wrote a book, A History of the Marathas. A History of the Marathas. Now, what did he write, sir, in this book? He did not write about how Shivaji ruled India, how Shivaji ruled Maharashtra. He did not write about the great achievement of Shivaji. Rather, he criticized what called as the role that was being played by Shivaji Maharaj. So you need to understand, my friend, that this book which he wrote about a history of the Marathas, he wrote it in 3 volumes. What does it mean 3 volumes? It means in 3 parts. So that is what it is very, very essential for us to understand, that the Indian history was not just about the achievement, about the great deeds that was being done by these great rulers, but it was rather the British perspective, their opinion about what called as Indian history. So is it clear, my friend? So James Grant Duff, he wrote a book, A History of the Marathas. And how many volumes he wrote, sir? He wrote 3 volumes in 3 parts. Now, talking about Grant Duff, as I said, his writing also shows the British inclination. Now, what is the meaning of the word inclination? As to his liking towards the Britishers. So what he did, in fact, he condemned what called as the Indian culture. He will not appreciate the Indian culture and the Indian history. Rather, he condemned. And this tendency was not only among one particular writer of Britain, but it was also seen in one of the other British writer who rather criticized Rajasthan's history. His name was Colonel Todd. What was his name? His name was Colonel Todd. Now, if you look at this man, now if you spell this Colonel, it spells like colonial, but it's not colonial, it's colonel. He was a colonel. And what was the name? His name was Colonel Todd. Now, what did he criticize? He criticized about India. And where was he governing? He was governing the Rajasthan. And he criticized the Rajasthan history. You can understand the mentality of the Britishers. So, what rather they did? Did they appreciate the Indian culture? Did they appreciate the Indian custom? No, they criticized it. And what was the reason? What was the objective, you feel, my dear friend? It was in order to bring about notice to the rest of the world as to how they played an important role. So, James Gandalf, Colonel Todd, what did they did? They criticized. One criticized the story of Marathas and the other criticized the story of Rajasthan, or the history of Rajasthan, I would say in other way. So these writers were, you can say, not actually for the welfare of our Indian tradition or Indian culture. We'll go little much more in detail, so you'll understand, my friend, and you'll really enjoy it. I promise, if you listen to this. Now, when we talk about, as I said, about Gandalf, he criticized, okay, and even about colonial. But there were Indian writers. See, you need to understand, my friend, this was also the period when there was a revolution in India also. If you remember 1857, which was the first war of independence, which rather brought about a change, a drastic change, you can call it as, in Indian history. One more person, you need to remember, I would not rather say that the writing of his was totally in favor of or in support of the British, but rather he was, I can say that some of the historians, the Indian historians, the Indian researchers, they believe that the writing of this man, whose name was William Wilson Hunter. What is the name of this writer or researcher or the historian? William Wilson Hunter. Now, what did he show? He showed in his book, in his writing, about somewhat impartial treatment to the subject. So, what does it mean? He did not either support it totally what called as the Britishers, neither he totally criticized what called as the Indian history or Indian tradition. So, you can say somewhat credit can be given if you talk about especially the British writers in those days. Now, we are talking about a period, my friend, this was the pre-independence period, prior to independence. So you can give somewhat credibility, somewhat credit to William Wilson Hunter. Now, do you think that the Indian historians would have kept quiet? Do you think that the Indian writers would have blindly accepted whatever was written in the book? No, not at all. The two great personalities, my friend, that you need to remember in this context is Nilkant. I hope you are paying attention, my friend. Nilkant Janardhan Kirthane. Now see, let me be very clear, my friend. Some of you may say, Sir, Nilkant Janardhan, it's not given at H, and in some book it's given as Janardn. Now, let me be very clear, my friend. Janardhan can be written as Janardhan. In your textbook it is spelled as Janardan. So, two people you need to remember. I'm talking about now the Indian historians who did not support the view of any British historian, because they believed that the Indian history had a great impact in Indian tradition, about the influence that it created during the time of the pre-independence, or rather the Indian history was the very ancient history which was rich. When I say rich, in terms of culture, in terms of tradition, so whatever was their opinion, that is, I'm talking about the British writers, was not acceptable to what called as the Indian historian. So two such names that you need to remember is Nilkant Janardhan Kirthane, and the other name is Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade. Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade. These two Indian historians, they rather criticize, or rather they took up the task, challenge. And what challenge they took up? They took up the challenge or task of exposing the limitation of Grant Duff's writing. So you need a courage, my friend, when you challenge a person who has already written about the Indian history. So you can realize that, my friend, Nilkanth Janardhan Kirthane and Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade, they both, in their books, when they wrote, they strongly criticized. Now you need also to remember about Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade. In the year 2003, the government of India, through the Department of Post, it came out with a ticket in favor of Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade, where his photo is being printed. So you can realize the contribution of these great historians cannot let go. You need to remember that these great historians rather played a very important role in bringing about the problems, in bringing about the achievements, in bringing about, or rather criticizing the British writers then, the British historians then, when a person would not even think of, because it was their rule. It was they who were governing, who were ruling our country. Though the country was ruled by the Britishers, though Grant Duff wrote about the Marathas' history, which he actually had portrayed, in quotes I would say, he had portrayed a very wrong history of Maharashtra or the Marathas. But who had the courage, who had the guts to challenge what called as the writing of the Britishers? It was Nilkanth Janardhan Kirthane and Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade who had the courage, who had the guts to criticize these writers. And that is why, in honor of Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade, in the year 2003, the Indian Postal Department came out with the stamp ticket of this great man. Let us have a look at colonial historiography. Now, when I say colonial historiography, what does it mean, sir? Now, what is colonial historiography? Colonial means establishing of one's colony. Now, if you remember, the Britishers came here with the purpose of carrying on the trade, and slowly and gradually they established their colonies here. Taking you back, if you remember, in Standard 8 to study about American War of Independence, where the Britishers had established the 13 colonies in America. In the similar pattern, what happened is the Britishers brought the entire control of India. And when they established their colonies, this period or this phase is called as colonial period. So what are we going to study about now? We are going to study about colonial historiography. Now, when we study about the colonial historiography, my friend, the early scholars who wrote about Indian history, who were these people? They were basically British people. You need to remember, my friend. Who are these people who wrote about the Indian history? They were basically the British people, or rather British officers, you can say. And also they were Christian missionaries. Now, who are called as Christian missionaries? The people who came to our country to spread religion. As I told you, initially the Britishers, if you remember, we had the Portuguese Vasco da Gama, the first sailor coming to India, followed by the French, followed by the Britishers. Why did they come to our country, sir? They did not just come here for the purpose of carrying trade, but they also began to spread their religion. So you understand that the colonial historiography, now we are talking exclusively about the British era. During the British period, in the colonial historiography, the two people played a major role writing about Indian history. Who are they? British officer and the Christian missionaries. Now, what did they do? It is very clearly reflected in their books. They ridiculed our Indian culture. What is the meaning of the word ridiculed Indian culture? They criticized. हिंदी में अगर एक छोटा सा शब्द बोलूं, मजाक उड़ाना. They used to criticize. They used to write Indian history in such a way. So it clearly reflects what? It clearly reflects the mentality as to how prejudiced they were, how partiality they would do when it would come to write about Indian history. Now, these writings, why did they wrote? As I asked you even in the previous slide, if you remember, why did they write? Why did they criticize? Why did they glorified their own history? It was in order to justify. Remember, my friend, one word. What was the work of these British writers? They wanted to justify through their books, through their writings, that the British rule was very much essential for the people of India. And that is why you need to understand, my friend, that when you refer, even today, my friend, as an historian, tomorrow, Some of you may take up your art subject to complete your graduation. Some of you may take up history subject. You need to understand that the research, the books as to which you need to refer. And that is why I say, my friend, history is not only about reading, it is also about understanding as to what are the materials, what are the references that you're doing for your further research. So these British officers, the British missionaries, the Christian missionaries, what did they do? They supported, they justified what called as the colonial historiography. And this can be clearly seen in the 5 volumes. Again, 5 volumes. The part of their writing, as I said. And what was the name of the book? Cambridge History of India. So all the books that were written by the Britishers then, what did it did? They glorified themselves. And this book, you will be surprised to know, it was written between the year 1922 to 1937. So you can see a period of almost 15 years where they wrote about, not about the achievement of Indian people, not about how and why did the people revolted against what called as the Britishers, but how they felt that the rule was very, very much important for them to rule India. Now we are going to discuss about the Orientalist historiography. Orientalist historiography. Now, sir, what is the meaning of the word Orientalist historiography? Orientalist means those writers of the West who wrote about the history of East, like our country India, African country and the Middle East country. Now many European scholars were curious about civilization and the countries, especially as I said about India. So these European scholars, they wrote about our culture, they wrote about our civilization and they wrote about our country. Some of these scholars even felt admiration, like they looked upon our country and respect for our country. So you cannot say that all these scholars or all the researchers or all the writers or all the historians, they just criticized of India. Some of them were very, you can say, they fell in love with our country. And that is why when you talk about this Orientalist historiography, you need to understand that these writers, historians, they wrote about what? They wrote about Indian history, whereby they appreciated, they applauded, they felt admiration and respect for our country. Now these scholars were known as Orientalists. Now Orientalists studied the similarities. What did they do? They studied the similarities between the Sanskrit and some of the European languages. Now when you say the Sanskrit, they believed that when they started doing research, the historians, they realized that Sanskrit was the mother language of all the languages of the world. Even today, the research is going on to trace the root as to how did the other language evolve, or rather where did the other language evolve from. So they believed, these historians, these researchers, they believed that the Sanskrit language was the basic, was the language which was the root or the mother of all the languages. And that is why they focused more on the Vedic tradition and the Sanskrit literature. About the Orientalist historiography, we cannot forget one great personality in terms of a great scholar who in fact contributed to the Orientalist history. One such name is Friedrich Max Muller. Now Friedrich Max Muller was a British historian, but he believed that in his opinion, he believed that Sanskrit was one of the most ancient language of the Indo-European languages, and he was the first European writer who translated the Sanskrit text. What he did? He translated the Sanskrit text. That was a book, Hitopadesh, which was actually written in Sanskrit by Narayan Pandit. Now, Friedrich Max Muller, he translated the book. Now, which language the book was written? The book was written in Sanskrit. Now, it is not easy, my friend, to translate a book. So, what did he first do? He himself studied about the Sanskrit language. He got the firm hold on this language, and it was only after getting a firm hold, when I say the meaning of the word firm hold, one who is having an in-depth knowledge of the language. When you say firm hold, so when he got the knowledge of the Sanskrit language, the book that is Hitopadesh, which was written actually in Sanskrit by Narayan Pandit, was translated by Friedrich Max Müller in which language? In German language. So you can understand, my friend, that he translated this Rig Veda in the German language. Now what is Rig Veda? Rig Veda, if you remember, it is one of the oldest Veda when we talk about. So we need to understand, my friend, that the history of India was rich. History of India was looked upon by the different historians according to their perspective, according to their understanding. But as I said that when we talk about historiography in the modern period, we need to remember we need to categorize the history, that of the colonial historiography and the Orientalist historiography. Now what are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about the nationalist historiography. Nationalistic historiography. Now what is nationalistic historiography? Now you need to understand, my friend, when we talk about colonial historiography or the Orientalist historiography, majority of the writers, I would not say all of them, but majority of the writers were the British writers. If you look at the colonial historiography, what did the colonial historiography period prove? It proved that the history that was written by the British officers, by the British missionaries, was with an objective of criticizing what called as the Indian tradition, Indian culture, Indian people, and in order to glorify their own history to the world. Now when you talk about the nationalistic history, you need to understand that in this nationalistic history, we will discuss about Indian writers, Indian historians, Indian researchers, Indian archaeologists, who in fact rather wanted to restore the pride of the custom, the tradition and the culture, or rather to simple one line if I can say, they were rather tackling the situation that was created by the Britishers. Now what is the meaning of the word tackling? You say tit for tat. Jaise ko taisa. So in order to reply back to the colonial historiographers as to what did they did, they criticized Indian history. So what did they did? They restored the pride of the ancient glory of India and the self-esteem that the Indian readers had. So in order to create a pride among the Indian people, in order to create a love for India, these historians brought about a reform. And what was this reform? It was through the nationalist historiography. Now that is what I said. It was a counter-attack on the colonial historiography. Now one such name that you need to remember, my friend, is that of Vishnu Shastri Chiplunkar. Vishnu Shastri Chiplunkar. Now Chiplunkar, those students, if you remember in the 8th standard, I always say, Kar. Majority of the people with the surname Kar are basically from the Konkan belt. This is just an extra information. Some of you may remember me even after you complete your graduation. Kar, Indulkar, Maikar, Chiplunkar, they are all basically from the Konkan belt. So they have that word. I always say. I had a gentleman by name Maikar. I used to always say him, Kaitari Kar, Abhyas Kar. So here you have one such nationalistic historiographer in order to cross tit for tat to the to the colonial historiography was Vishnu Shastri Chiplunkar. Now what did he criticized? He criticized the British officers, and that through his writing, he challenged the British officer about the writings that he did in the book written by Vishnu Shastri Chiplunkar. The second such name that you need to remember, as I said, mentioned before, that Rajwade. Who are Rajwade? Rajwade was also the Indian historian who wrote the books about the Marathas, or rather who challenged Grand Duff, if you remember, and through his various subjects like history, linguistic, that is language, etymology, getting into the depth meaning of it, and grammar, etc. What did they did? They brought about a reform. They brought about a change in the perspective of not only just the Indian people, but even among the people, those who wanted to study about Indian custom, Indian culture, Indian tradition, Maratha history, Rajasthan history, or rather the history of the entire country. The people who contributed to national history, we cannot forget the names of many such contributors who contributed to the history, that is to Indian history. Many such famous writers which I have mentioned here on the whiteboard, you can see it included, we talked about Vishnu Shastri Chiplunkar, Mahadev Govind Ranade, Ramkrishna Gopal Bhandarkar, Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, Rajendra Lal Mishra, Ramesh Chandra Majumdar, Kashi Prasad Jaiswal, Radha Kumud Mukherjee, Bhagwan Lal Indraji, Vasudev Vishnu Mirashi, and Anand Sadashiv Altekar. Now you also need to remember, my friend, that these historians who actually contributed to the Indian history, they were renowned scholars amongst the nationalistic historians. One such man I specifically need to mention here is Justice Mahadev Govind Ranade. He had explained the entire background of the rise of the Maratha Empire, the rise of the Maratha power, and according to him, it was not like a sudden erupted forest fire, but the ground for it was there in Maharashtra. And what was this ground that was being prepared? As to why did the people in Maharashtra revolted? It was social, cultural and religious level. Again, teen ka funda, as I said. So one can understand that why was this getting extended for a very longer period of time. The revolt were getting extended for a very long period of time. The reason behind it was social, cultural and religious. Now when we are talking about, my friend, as I said, about these historians who contributed to Indian history in terms of nationalistic history, we need to remember the name, as I said, about V.K. Rajwade, who also founded the Bharat Itihas Samaj Shodhak Mandal in Pune on the 7th of July 1910 to facilitate historical research. So if anybody is there, is an historical department which is there, which is being named after him. So one can realize, and he also stated, if you see in your textbook, it is mentioned that human history is defined by time and space. Describing any event necessitates that the final portrayal should be spread on the complete canvas of the given time and place. One cannot just understand the history if I just give you a description about one particular period, but in fact the entire history should be spread in such a manner which needs to be interconnected to one another. Only if a balanced combination of the three factors, again Rajwade also talks about the three factors. And what are the three factors that he talks about? He talks about time, he talks about space and the personalities is present. Then only an event does qualify to be called so. That is what Rajwade said. Now, Rajwade was of a great opinion. When we talk about, as I said, 2003, the government of India came out with a stamp in his memory. Rajwade was of the firm opinion that we should write our own history. Who can write better about our own country? We need to write about it. The foreigners cannot write about our history, how is our culture, how is our custom. Not, for example, what is cooked by my mom. I should be in a position to write about my mom, what kind of good food she prepares, what is the sweet things that she likes the most, and what is the thing which I like the most and she prepares. So I should write about my own country. That is what was the belief of the Rajwade. He compiled and edited 22 volumes of Marathancha Itihasachi Sadhane. This is the book that was compiled together, put it in 22 volumes. So you can understand that people like Rajwade, people like Vishnu Shastri Chiplunkar, they did not accepted the history that was portrayed about India by the Britishers. So what did they do? They did counterattack. And when you talk about these scholar people, what was their mission? What was their goal? They wanted to trigger off the independence movement. See, in order to gain independence, let me tell you, my dear students, that independence was not served to us in a golden plate. You need to understand that it was not just a contribution of one individual person. Rather, it was a contribution of historians, it was a contribution of writers, it was a contribution of journalists, it was a contribution of men, women, children. From every section of the society, people came together in order to revolt against the Britishers in whatever possible manner that they could. So somebody attacked the Britishers even through what called as the writing of history. So one such man you need to remember, my friend, and you cannot neglect him. Rather, I will say that history cannot be complete without this man. And what is the name of this man? Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. If you remember, even in the 8th standard we studied about V.D. Savarkar, and I did mention that in India we have an airport which has been named after him. And where is this? This is Port Blair, that is Andaman and Nicobar Island. If at all you get a chance in your lifetime, please do visit the cellular jail. Please do visit the beautiful island which is there. Now, talking about this great historian like Vishnu Shastri Chiplunkar, Rajwade and Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, what is it they triggered off? And that is why the contribution of these great nationalistic historiography or nationalistic historiographer has been of immense help to understand the Indian tradition and history. And one such book name that I need to mention specifically, which was written by Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, is the national uprising or the Indian War of Independence 1857. Swatantracha Pahla Lada. The book that was written by Swatantra Veer Savarkar is one of a remarkable book which brought about an inspiration. It brought about people of our country together to revolt against the Britishers, or rather the European peoples. We already discussed about colonial historiography, we discussed about Orientalist historiography, we discussed about nationalistic historiography. Now what are we going to discuss about? We are going to discuss about historiography. Just 1 minute, my dear students. We are going to discuss about historiography in the post-independence era. In the post-independence. Now what do you mean by the word post-independence? Anyone? I hope that you at least would be muttering wherever you are. Post-independence era is the period after the India got its independence. Now when I say after India got its independence, if you remember again Teen Ka Funda, you need to remember that the historiography of this period, I am talking about now which period I am talking about? Historiography in the post-independence era or period. So when I am talking about this, you need to remember the historiography of the era has been influenced mainly by three ideological schools. Ideological school. Ideological school. And how many ideological school? Three. Again, Hassan sir, Teen Ka Funda. Now when I say three ideological school, you need to understand as to which were these three ideological school. I will explain you in detail, in depth about it, but I'll just jot down here. The very first school that we need to understand is the Marxist. What school? The Marxist school or the Marxist history. The second we are going to talk about is the subaltern history. And the third that we are going to discuss about is the feminist history. Somehow even this markering got over, I suppose. I will change the pen, my friends. But yes, let me come first about each one of them. So what are we going to discuss about in this topic? We're going to talk about historiography in the post-independence era, specifically the three ideological schools. Now what is ideological school, my dear friends? The concept, the idea, or rather the philosophy that these schools believed in. When we talk about the Marxist history, the greatest contribution in the history of the world goes to Karl Marx. This I'm just giving you an introduction, my friend. I'll definitely discuss about it in depth. Karl Marx. Now when you talk about Marxist history, you know what was the Marxist history? What did it believe in? We'll discuss. The second is the subaltern history. The subaltern history, the word subaltern itself means the bottommost. In the simple word, what does it mean? It means the bottommost. So we're going to talk about Marxist history, the subaltern history, and the feminist. Feminist history deals with the female historians. So let me go one by one in detail. I'll start first with the Marxist history. So the Marxist historiography. The scholar of the post-independence began to feel that the need of writing history. They wrote on the various subjects on community, science, economic system, political ideologies, and cultural aspects. Now when we talk about this cultural aspect, one of the most important, as I said, that we need to discuss or we need to understand about the Marxist historiography. Now when I say Marxist historiography, I said one of the greatest man who contributed to what called as to the Marxist historiography. The credit goes to whom? The credit goes to Karl Marx. Now what was Karl Marx's theory or what was his philosophy? You need to understand. He said that the concern for the means of production, land, natural resources, and technology, modes of production, and industrial relations were the center in the writing of Marxist historians. They believe that the owner of the land can be Mr. A. It can be tilted by Mr. B. So who is the owner? The owner is A. Who is tilting it? It's B. Who gets the major profit? It goes major to Mr. A because he is the owner of the land. But according to Marxist history or Marxist theory, the land though belongs to the owner, but the wealth he believed that should be equally distributed in the society. So what did he basically discuss or talked about? The gap between the haves and the have-nots. He says one of the reasons as to why there are wars, why there is a clash, why there is a fight between one person and the other, it is because there is a big gap between those who have everything and those who don't have anything. And that is why his center of writing, that is the Marxist history, believed that everything should be equally distributed in the society. And you need to remember, my friend, one such great man who contributed greatly or drastically to the Marxist history. We are talking now about the scholars or the writers. And which period we are talking about? We are talking about the post-independence period. So we now do not discuss about the British writers or British scholars or British historians. We are now going to concentrate and exclusively discuss about the Indian writers who contributed to the three ideological schools. Which are these three ideological schools I discussed? Once again, Teen Ka Funda. The very first we talked about, or we are discussing now about the Marxist school. So the three schools or the three ideological schools we are discussing about: Marxist history, subaltern history, and the feminist history. Now, in case of Marxist history, you need to remember one of the most important Indian historian who contributed to the Marxist school or Marxist history was Damodar Dharmanand Kosambi. Damodar Dharmanand Kosambi. Now, in order to make you understand, my friend, these Marxist people are addressed as comrades. Okay, even today we have the CPI party, that is Communist Party of India. They address their people or those who are the part of this party as comrade. So one such person you need to remember in Marxist history when we are discussing about India. We need to remember the contribution of Damodar Dharmanand Kosambi. The other one, Comrade Shripad Amrut Dange, Ram Sharan Sharma, Comrade Sharad Patil, and they all have contributed greatly to what called as to the Marxist history. Now, when we are talking about these Marxist history, as I said, that what did they believe in? They believed in the ideology that the Marxist school was a different school. Why? Because as I said, it did not had a control on the production of meat just by one person or by a small group of people. Rather, they believed in the ideology of having spread it throughout what called as the society. And that is why if you see the modes of production through history: hunting and gathering, horticultural, pastoral, agrarian, industrial, hyper-industrial, all these were the basic areas which these historians believed that should be controlled not by one individual but rather by all the members of the society. And as I said, that the Marxist history has been one of the greatest influence when we talk about the contribution of these historians in the field of Marxist school. Now we are going to discuss, as I said, about the great contributor, as I said, mentioned about Damodar Dharmanand Kosambi. We are also going to talk about the contribution of Comrade Shripad Amrut Dange. We are also going to discuss about the contribution of Ram Sharan Sharma and Comrade Sharad Patil. Now all these contributors, sir, what did they do? They just did not write through the books, but rather they created a kind of awareness. They created a kind of spirit which you need to remember. And as I said that in case of Comrade Shripad Amrut Dange, he is also one of the greatest person because he also became the member of the Lok Sabha. Comrade Dange was one of the founder member of the Indian Communist Party. Comrade Dange or Shripad Amrut Dange was one of the foremost founder member of the Indian Communist Party, which still exists in the country as the Communist Party of India and Communist Party of India, Marxist in bracket NM. One of the important book that you need to remember that was written by Shripad Amrut Dange was Primitive Communism to Slavery. Primitive Communism to Slavery. So what did he do, sir, in this book? He wrote about the kind of slavery that was existing in India. So we need to remember, my friend, that the contribution of these great writers, historians, or the great Marxist school cannot be neglected. And as I told you that many states even today are controlled or is also being ruled by what called as the Marxist Party. Specifically when we talk about Calcutta till few years back, before Mamta Didi could come and take over the control as the chief Minister of Bengal. Before that, it was Jyoti Basu, who also belonged to the CPI party. In Kerala also, we had the rule or the control of what called as the Communist Party of India. So you can see that the contribution of these each school, when we talk about the three ideologies, has been immense. And when we talk about the contribution of these three schools being immense, we cannot neglect the contribution of the Marxist school. Now let us go to the second part of it, which we are going to discuss, my friend, is the subaltern history. Now when I say the word subaltern history, just give me a few seconds, my dear friends. Now when we talk about the word subaltern history, you need to remember that the subaltern history deals with what called as the important aspects. And what is this important aspect, sir, that it deals with? It talks about the bottommost people, or the people at the bottommost rank. Now these people at the bottommost rank cannot be neglected, and that is what we are going to discuss in the second school of ideology, that is the subaltern school. So the contribution of the Marxist history has been immense. Now we are going to discuss about the subaltern history. Now when you say subaltern history, as I said, what is the meaning of the word subaltern? I said in the previous slide, bottommost rank. Bottommost rank. Now when you talk about this subaltern history, you need to understand, my dear students, that the subaltern history considered not the other aspects of it. As I said that, when you talk about society, you divide it in first class, the second class and the third class. So this is what is called as the bottommost. The subaltern historians, researchers, they believe that whenever history has to be written, they should always consider the bottommost rank people. And one name that you need to remember in this, it was an Italian historian, writer by name Antonio Gramsci. Now he was an Italian historian who himself believed in Marxist ideology. You'll be surprised to know. He believed though in Marxist ideology, but while writing history, he believed that if the history needs to be written, it should always consider whom? It should consider the bottommost rank people. And what was the theory? What was the teaching of the subaltern history school? I said that the three ideology that we had, the Marxist ideology that we already discussed, I said the greatest contributor to this Marxist history or this school goes to Karl Marx. I said history graduation, philosophy graduation, economics graduation, you will have this man right from the first year of your college to the final year of your college if you take up economics, history as your major subject. So the Marxist contribution, as I said, what was it? They did not want it to have a gap between haves and have not. Now subaltern history, as I said, what did they believe in? They believed that if we need to write the history of any country, you need to consider which people? You need to consider the bottommost ranked people. And one such great historian who actually practiced this subaltern history, or who rather was responsible to begin with this kind of history, was Antonio Gramsci. He was an Italian historian, and what did he believe? He believed that the idea of starting from the bottommost rank of the people in the society, it means that the bottommost rank, the folklore, that is the story of the ancestors' time, which is passed from, as I told you, one generation to another, is an important source, he believed. See, a queen, definitely people would write about a king or a queen. But what about the people who helped the king to remain king? What about those soldiers who contributed to the army of that kingdom? So he believed that the bottommost ranked people should be taken into consideration, as they are one of the most important source of history. Now one name that you need to remember in this series is, my friend, in case of subaltern history, is Ranjit Guha. Now, sir, who was Ranjit Guha? Now, Ranjit Guha is an historian who played a major role in establishing subaltern history in India. He was born 1923 in undivided India, which is presently now the part of Bangladesh. And in the year 1959, this great man, that is Ranjit Guha, who talked about subaltern history, migrated to UK. He was a professor at Sussex University and presently resides in Austria with his wife and his kids. Talking about this man, as I said, Ranjit Guha, he contributed greatly to what called as to subaltern history. Now when we talk about, as I said, subaltern history, it was not just the contribution of this person who believed in subaltern, that is considering the bottommost people. Now subaltern history was existing even during the time, rather you can say in a simple word, even during the time of the prehistoric period. Now, how would sir we know about that? When we talk about Mahatma Phule, just give me 1 minute, my dear friends. So when we talk about, as I said, subaltern history, we need to remember the name of Antonio Gramsci and Mr. Guha. In the same way, when we talk about subaltern history, we cannot forget a name of a very important person who contributed to the subaltern history even prior to independence, or when people were not aware with this word, which is called a subaltern or bottommost. The great such one man which we need to remember is my friend Mahatma Phule, or whom we better known as Mahatma Jyotirao Phule. So what was his contribution in terms of subaltern history? He was the first man in India who wrote a book which he talked about Shudra Ti Shudra, Shudra Ti Shudra, or rather, if I say you, it is Shudra Ati Shudra. That means even in Shudras, if you know the Indian society, we were divided in the basis of religion. On the topmost, we had the Brahmins, followed by the Kshatriyas, followed by the Vaishyas, and finally the Shudras. So even in Shudras, there were Ati Shudras. And when he was writing about this, that is Shudra Ati Shudra, the title of his book was Gulamgiri. So when we talk about my friend subaltern history, we need to remember he unfolded the history in his book, that is Gulamgiri. That is the people who were serving. So who are these people who were serving to the higher caste people, to the higher community people? They belong to the bottommost rank. He drew the attention of the people. Exploitation, how the women were being exploited, how the Shudras were being exploited, how the Ati Shudras were done under the name of religion. As I told you, my friend, our Indian society was divided on the basis not of class like the European society, the first class, the second class and the third class. If you remember in the story of France, the first estate, the second estate and the third estate. In India, we had our Indian society which was divided on the basis of caste, and that is why the term Shudra and Ati Shudra indicates the bottommost rank in the caste system. So as I said that when you talk about the Marxist history, you need to remember Karl Marx. When you talk about subaltern history, you need to remember Antonio Gramsci. And when you talk about what you called as subaltern history, along with it, you need to remember the Indian historian, that is Mahatma Jyotirao Phule, who talked about all this, the bottommost ranked people of the society who were never considered in the books of Indian history, that is the people who were Shudras and Ati Shudras. And what was the title of the book that he unfolded the stories? That was Gulamgiri. Mentioned subaltern history, though the contribution cannot be forgotten of this Italian historian, but Mahatma Phule in India played a very important role. And the second name that we cannot forget till this world is there in India, in Hindi you would have heard, Jab Tak Suraj Chand Rahega, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Tera Naam Lega. So the contribution of Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, whom we better known as Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, cannot be neglected, my friend. As I told you, the role of the people, those especially who are belonging to the Dalit caste, is very significant in changing the whole aspect of the various cultural and political aspects of India. Dalit played a very important role, but there was no mentioning about these people by the writers, whether they were Europeans or whether they were Indian writers, because majority of these writers, as I said, they would only write about the people who belong to the higher caste, the people who belong to the higher section of the society, because the Dalit people, the Shudras and the Ati Shudras were denied even of the basic rights. Forget about education, my friend. And if you remember, in the same context, it was Mahatma Jyotirao Phule when he started the first school for the girls, where he taught his own wife, who became the first student and the first teacher. It's an immense contribution about these two great men, that is Mahatma Jyotirao Phule and Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. Why? Because they were responsible for bringing about a shape to the Indian society. The various cultural and political aspects of India were being highlighted by this great man, that is Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. One cannot forget to acknowledge the role that the nationalist historiographers they played. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar focused on this fact. Consistently, he was working for it. And two books that we need to remember, my friend, which were written by Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, where he talked about, as I said again and again, I'm repeating it, my friend, the word subaltern itself means the bottommost, and the two bottommost section, as I said, the Shudras and the Ati Shudras, who were in fact the major role that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar plays, or rather writing about these people of which Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar plays, was through the two books that he wrote. And what was the name of these two books? The very first book, that was The Untouchables, and the second book that he wrote was Who Were the Shudras. So the two books, The Untouchables and Who Were the Shudras, what it did, it cited the example of subaltern history. So we need to understand, my friend, the contribution of subaltern history cannot be neglected in the history of our country, that is India. And when we talk about the history of our country, what is more important, my friend, you need to understand the role that these historians played. Are you getting it, my friend? The role that these historians played. And what was their role? Their role was of foremost important. And what was this foremost important role that they played? We need to realize, because as I said that the three ideological schools that were there, which were which contributed to the Indian history. The very first we talked about the Marxist history, where the greatest contributor was Karl Marx. When we talk about subaltern history, we talked about Antonio Gramsci and the contribution of Mahatma Jyotirao Phule and the contribution of Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. In this line, we will now study about the third and the most important school. And thank you to this school, because what did it brought about? It brought about a revolution, not only in India, but rather which brought about a revolution in the world, which is the feminist history. Now when I use the word feminist history, we need to remember about all those people who contributed to the history in the terms of feminist history. If you remember one such name we discussed about already in the chapter number 1, Simone de Beauvoir. Who was she? She was the writer, the first historian in Europe, who brought about a revolution among the women of Europe. And when we talk about the feminist history in India, that is, we are talking again, I'm reminding you again and again, we are talking about the post-independence era. We need to remember one such name is that called as Tarabai Shinde. Who was she, sir? Tarabai Shinde was the first woman historian who attacked the male-dominated society. As I told you, my friend, our Indian society was a male-dominated society. Purush Pradhan apan jala manto. The society was totally a partial society. Women were denied of education. They were denied of their rights. They were not given equal status by the people of our time, whether it was the higher caste, that is, whether it was Brahmin, whether it was Kshatriya, whether it was Vaishya, or whether it was Shudra. So what did Tarabai Shinde do? Tarabai Shinde wrote a very important book, and this book, which he wrote it in year 1882. And what was the title, sir, of this book? She wrote this book where she talked about Stri Purush Tulna. Stri Purush Tulna. In English, which means man-woman comparison. And what did she write about? She criticized the mentality of men which was dominating the society. But thank you to such the feminist writers who brought about a drastic change. In the year 1888, now we talked about Tarabai Shinde, as I told you. So what do you remember, my friend? Tarabai Shinde was the first feminist writer who wrote or who criticized the male-dominated society in India. The second name that you remember is that of Pandita Ramabai. Pandita Ramabai, in the year 1882, she did talk about the high caste Hindu women. What did she talk about? The high caste Hindu women. Now, what did she talk about this here in this book, sir? She described about the contribution of the lower strata of the society, again the bottommost, that these women of the higher caste, they needed the services, in order to get them ready for a program or a function, in order to take care of their kids, in order sometimes to take care of their children. All this was being done by the women of the lower society. And that is where Pandita Ramabai and Tarabai Shinde, what did they did? They talked about the kind of the society that was existing then. And this is a period, if you remember, at the time when Indian women were not even considered for anything. It was, forget about, as I told you, a woman was only considered for chul animul. She was only there to take care of the children and to produce children. She was considered as a means of entertainment by the male-dominated society, my friend. And this kind of mentality, I'm sorry to say, even exists today in a certain part of the society. Now, this Hindu women, they had various issues like employment of women, treatment of them that was given at their workplace, their right to political equality. Now, if you will be aware of it, thank you to the government of Maharashtra that we have 50% of the seat being reserved for the women. So what is this, sir? It is a contribution that today we are trying to provide an equal status. We are talking about women empowerment. Why is all that we are discussing? Thank you to this feminist historians who contributed immensely at that time in what called as subaltern history. So what is subaltern history? Considering, or rather, the bottommost rank. So over at the bottommost, the women were at the bottommost. So what did Tarabai Shinde and people like Pandita Ramabai did? They brought about a revolution through their writings, through their books, and brought about an awakening among the masses. We are talking about the contribution of women. We also need to remember in the year 1888, we cannot forget the contribution of this great woman. Her name was Pandita Ramabai. Pandita Ramabai also discussed, or she also spoke about the condition of the woman in a book titled The High Caste. The High Caste Hindu Women. And what did she talk about? She talked about the discrimination that was being done at that time among the Indian women. She discussed as to how the Indian society discriminated. And as I said, my friend, in those days, women were not only denied of their rights, they were denied to education, but basic rights, even right to live. If a girl child was born, if you remember, she was considered to be as a load on the family. What they would do, they would kill. Child infanticide was very much in common. So the different problems that the Indian society faced then and even till today, I am sorry to say this, my dear friends, that even today women are not given all the opportunities throughout the country. And that is why you hear the cases where the girl are being killed for the dowry. You hear still that in the love of a boy child, the parents are having more and more kids. So what did she did? She talked about how discrimination was being done. She discussed about the issues like employment of women, treatment given to them at the workplace. That means when women and men go for a job, the same job, the treatment that has been given to women is different. And as I said that Indian male-dominated society mentality was such that did not accepted this concept of a woman or a female having a control on male. And what did we talk about? It also talked about the political right and equality. But thank you to the government of Maharashtra, whereby we have 50% of seats which are being reserved for what called as for the women. So you can understand, my dear friend, that the contribution of women have been immense whenever we talk about the feminist historiography. Now, as I said that the three schools, the Marxists contributed to what called as equal opportunity to both men and women, whereas on the other hand, what did the subaltern history talk about? It talked about what called as the bottommost rank people, which we discussed about the role of Mahatma Jyotirao Phule, and we talked about the role of Babasaheb Ambedkar. And now what we are discussing about, we're discussing about the feminist historiography or feminist history, where we discussed about the role of Tarabai Shinde in the year 1882, where she wrote a book, Stree Purush Tulna. And as I said that, a woman was only considered for chul animal. She was supposed to take care of the children and to take care of the family. But now the scenario has changed, and as I said that, so one cannot forget the contribution of all these great women. Few more women that we need to discuss right now. We also need to discuss about Meera Kaushambi. Meera Kaushambi's book, where she talked about crossing threshold. Meera Kaushambi, where she wrote a book talking about the crossing threshold. The feminist essays in the social history is of great importance. Now, when we talk about the life and the stories of women, it was been covered up by people like Pandita Ramabai and even Dr. Rukmabai. This is another name that you need to remember, my dear friends, is Dr. Rukmabai. Dr. Rukmabai. Who was Dr. Rukmabai? She was the first Indian woman who practiced what called as medicine. In those days where women were not allowed to go to school, in those days where women were not allowed to educate themselves, she became the first woman to educate herself, and she just did not completed her medicine, but she also started practicing. And this, as I said, was not acceptable to the Indian society then. But the contribution of this woman have been immense in the field of feminist historiography. So, as I said, we talked about Meera Koshambi, we talked about Pandita Ramabai, we talked about Dr. Rukmabai. These women contributed immensely to the history of our country. Contribution of Rukmabai has been immense. One more name that we need to remember when we talk about the feminist history or feminist historiography, that is the name of Dr. Sharmila Reghe. As I said, my friend Dr. Sharmila Reghe was one of the great historians who died at a very young age of 49. She was associated with Pune University at the department which works for Kranti Jyoti Savitribai Phule, which works for gender equality. And her contribution has been great because she talked about in her writing, in a book where she talked about writing caste, writing gender. And it is a testimony, it is an evidence which includes her essays on the autobiographies of Dalit women. So she has been, you can say, a person or a woman who talks about the contribution of the Dalit to a great extent. So these women cannot be neglected, my friend. Now, if you look in your textbook, there is a section which talks about, do you know, the publication of Marathi Riyasat by Govind Sakaram Sardesai, which was a momentous achievement in the field of Indian historiography. He worked for, or his work became so famous that, people began to appreciate his work. So one can understand the contribution of these great writers, or rather, especially of Govind Sakaram Sardesai. He was addressed as Riyasatkar. Several books were published in Marathi, and there have been a number of Indian historians who wrote about, the various aspects of the Indian society, the particular ideology that was existing. So you need to understand, my friend, that these three schools, the Marxist history, the subaltern history, and the feminist history, has been of immense importance when we talk about in contribution to the history of our country. And we need to remember that there are many more Indian historians who need to be acknowledged and who need to be appreciated. It includes some of the writers like Sir Jadunath Sarkar, Surendranath Sen, Riyasatkar, G.S. Sardesai, Trimbak Shankar Shejwalkar. They are the great historians of the present time who have immensely contributed. And in the recent times, when we talk about the contribution, see, these historians contributed to the Indian history, where they glorified Indian history, where they counter-attacked the writing of the Europeans, or rather the historians who did not actually portray the true history. As I told you in the beginning, they gave tit for tat. It was not in order to, have a grudge or hold a kind of favoritism in terms of Indian history, but rather these people inspired the people of the world through their writings, brought the real picture about as to what history is all about India and what happened. And in the recent time, we can talk about historians like Yashwant Dinkar Phadke, Ramchandra Guha, who have contributed extensively to the historiography of modern India. Thus, it is evident, my dear friends, that historiography has been influenced greatly by the social and political movement. And it is that historiography which has not just brought about a development in India, but also the development that we can see outside India. And the great contribution of these great people in history cannot be neglected. And that is why I say, my dear friends, that the influence of this movement has been immense on what called as an India. So the great contribution of these Indian writers, Indian historians, Indian researchers, Indian archaeologists has been immense. So what did we discuss about, my friend, in historiography, Indian tradition? We talked about the contribution during the ancient period, during the medieval period and the modern period. We need to understand, my friend, as I said, that history is not just to study and forget it, but we need to apply this history in our real life. And that is why when we discussed about the third chapter, that is applied history, we'll discuss in detail. But before that, my friend, please go through the audio video, and if you have any suggestion, anything you would like to, or you expect anything from me more to go in detail, please feel free. I hope you like this video. If you like it, please don't forget to write a comment. Whatever suggestions you have, you are most welcome, my dear friends. Next chapter, when we meet, remember with the 3 R's. As soon as you finish watching this video, do not forget to revise the lesson. Go through the notes, that is the questions that are there below the lesson. As I said, that after the 3rd chapter gets over, a PPT, I will prepare it in the form of a recap, which I will upload it on the site, which you can go through it. And after the 3 chapters get over, I'll conduct a small test, which again will be online, and I'm very sure that this will not only help you and guide you to how to study history, but it will also provide you with immense information. My dear students, do not leave things for the last. Take this year's academically seriously. Prepare yourself. Remember the 3 R's. Read the lesson. Review the audio video that is sent by all the teachers, and please do a recap. When I meet you in the next lecture, I will request each one of you to go through the 3rd chapter, that is Apply History. I hope you understood and followed. Thank you, my dear friends. God bless. Have a good day.